Now, you're probably wondering, what am I doing in one of these babies? A Rolls Royce. I'll tell you why. I'm getting ready to pick my all-Rolls Royce team based on college performance. Nothing to do with the NBA. I mean, we're talking the best of the best. I'm going to talk about the Waltons, the Jamars. We're going to talk about the Magics and the Jordans. You name them. I can't wait. The next 30 minutes, it's going to be unbelievable, baby. Hey, James, hit the throttle. Give me the hoop, baby. James, slow the tempo, baby. Time out. Get a TO, baby. Get a TO! Get a timeout! Get a TO, baby! Get a timeout! Get a TO, baby! Oh! Little showtime! And they love it in Ann Arbor! Yes! He can line it up! Sweet shooter! He's got a little showbiz in him! Great touch pass! Great touch pass! Oh! What an acrobatic move! Unbelievable play! That was sensational! Here it goes! It's going to be all over! Oh, what a play! What a defensive play! Awesome, baby! Oh, have I seen it all? I have seen it all, baby! I can't believe it! I can't believe it! Coast to coast! Oh, yeah! Hello! Oh, shot a play! What a play! Slam jam bang, baby! I can't believe it! I can't believe it! Hey, what are we doing here today? Let me tell you how it works. I'm going to pick my all-Rolls Royce team of the 1950s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. The best players by position, the two best guards, the best center, and the two best forwards. And then I'm going to pick the greatest team of all time, the best two guards, the best center, and the best forwards. You may agree or you may disagree with my choices, but you know what? It doesn't matter. They're my choices, baby, and this is my video. This is my show, baby. And you know what else? You're going to hear terms that are unbelievable, and you're not going to be able to find them in Webster's Dictionary. PT Peers, they're primetime players. These are the guys that perform when the game is on the line. They want to shine during prime time. Easy, clutch. Look at Bobby Knight. He's doing a dance. Rock dishers, the passers, the guys that create and guys that innovate. Three Deers. They drive, draw, and dish. They dish the rock with the best of them. And the rock we know is the basketball. The Windex man. These are the rebounders, baby. They clean the glass. They sweep the glass with the best of them. And then we talk about the area code J. They're the shots from way down, baby. And then we talk about the slam bam jammers, the dunkers. In your face, baby. Get out of my way. They light up the crowd. They can do it in high-rise fashion. Dipsy-doo dunkaroos. Now we're going to take a look at my all slam bam jammers. Clyde the Glide Drexler played for the Houston Cougars in the mid-1980s. They were members of the Phi Slammer Jammer Bammer team. Mr. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, but Clyde the Glide was the president of the fraternity. And then we had Darryl himself, Dr. Duncanstein. He was a member of the Doctors of Dunk that won the national championship in 1980. And then there was Dominique Wilkins. The guy in the early 1980s was a Georgia Slam Jam Bammer. You talk about flair, Wilkins was to the dunk what Picasso was to painting. And then there was Michael Jordan, Air Jordan. What else can be said about this guy? Mr. Jordan can rise like you can't believe. That's what they want, little dipsy-doo, jammeroo. And then we have UCLA's Lou Alcindor. He deserves some special mention here because after a sophomore year in 1967, the NCAA said, no more jamming, guys. 10 years later, the rule was lifted, and all the big guys started to rejoice. I mean, there were parties galore. It was unbelievable. Now, everyone has their own special style of slam jam bamming. Hey, now let's head back to the 1950s. I'm all pumped up, and I know you are. Let's think back to those days. The 1950s, we had the black and white TV, and then it was the Elvis era. No, not him, him. Now we're talking about a guy who can really shake and bake. The 1950s were a happy time for me because back then, baby, I had hair. And I mean I had lots of it. Eat your heart out, John Travolta. Hey, enough sentimentality. Let's get down to business. Introducing the Rolls Royces of those happy days. At one guard, Oscar Robertson, Cincinnati alum, 1958 to 1960. There he is sweeping the glass, starting to break, and finding the open man. This guy can do it all. He was Mr. Versatility. 3-time NCAA scoring champ, 3-time first-team All-American, and 3 times the College Player of the Year. The big O, Oscar Robertson. And at the other guard, Jerry West from out of West Virginia. Most people think of West as a scorer, but this guy still holds the school record for rebounds in a single game. 31. Unbelievable. West took his team to the NCAA tournament in each of his 3 years. His tournament average was over 30 per game. 2-time All-American, Jerry West. And at one forward, Elgin Baylor. This Seattle superstar pioneered the high-flying style of today. And he could sweep the glass. 23 rebounds per game in 1957. Baylor was a master of body control. The all-around superstar, Mr. Elgin Baylor. And at the other forward, LaSalle's Tom Gola. From 1953 to 1955, Gola accumulated over 2,000 boards. In fact, Gola is one of only 2 college players to grab 2,000 rebounds and score 2,000 points. A 3-time All-American, Tom Gola. My center, Bill Russell. Hi, Bill. Russell remains the defensive genius of all time, a flat-out big-time winner. 2 NCAA titles at San Francisco. The NCAA didn't like it when Russell guided the ball in the hoop, hence the offensive goaltending rule. Sorry, Will, gotta go with Bill Russell. My coach in the 50s has to be Kentucky's Adolph Rupp, the Baron. His teams won NCAA titles in 1951 and 1959. He has more victories, 875, than any other coach, Adolph Rupp. It is really tough trying to pick a first-team All-Rolls-Royce team. You leave up some real big-name superstars. Hey, what about the Kansas All-American, Clyde Lovellette? 2 times an All-American, 6'9", a big wide body. And then what about Bob Cousy? This guy was so creative. Eat your heart out, Magic. And then there was Wilt Chamberlain, another Kansas All-American. You talk about a talent. This guy was awesome. Onward to the 1960s. That was the era of the Beatles. But you know what? It was the era of long hair. That didn't apply to me. But when we talk about the 60s and we talk about my All-Rolls-Royce team, we start with that floppy-haired guy. That's right, the Pistol, Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete, a guy who could dish the rock any way you wanted. But he was primarily a big-time scorer, the greatest scorer in college basketball history. How did he do it? I don't know. This guy was unbelievable. Mr. Creativity. And my other guard, Princeton's Bill Bradley. He could play any position he wanted. He was a 3-position guy, and he earned the name as Dollar Bill after he signed a lucrative pro contract with the New York Knicks. Mr. Bradley was a 2-time All-American and a Rhodes Scholar. And now he is the senator. Maybe that's right, Senator Bill Bradley. My forwards, let's go to Ohio State's Jerry Lucas. Lucas jumped center, but he could play any position along the baseline. And from 1960 to 1962, Lucas made first-team All-American. Ohio State made the NCAA Finals in all 3 of its years, winning the title in 1961. And then the other forward, we go to Houston. That's right, the Houston Cougars, Elvin Hayes. This two-time All-American, the Big E, was Player of the Year in 1968. Hayes is the NCAA tournament's highest career scorer and rebounder. We're talking prime timer here, baby, a PT peer. And we're also talking about the only player who can give Lou Alcindor a run for his money. Take that, Big Lou. Only kidding. And then we look at my first-team All-American Rolls-Royce center, the greatest center and the most dominant guy in his era. Who else than Mr. Lou Alcindor? The guy was unstoppable, and so were the Bruins while he played with them. Come on, who's going to stop that skyhook? Nobody, baby. And the coach of the 1960s, that's easy. John Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood. He won 5 titles in the 60s. We may never again see a college basketball dynasty like the one he built. Yeah, he had the big guy, but he also won without Alcindor. No question about it, John Wooden was the master coach of the 1960s. I know we have to leave off some players. I mean, there's only so many slots you can fill. It's unbelievable. Honorable mention? Hey, what about Rick Mount, the Purdue superstar? This guy averaged 40 points a game. Rick Barry. Hey, you think about Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine? Forget about it. Barry was Mr. Scoring Machine. And what about Cazzie Russell? He was a 2-time All-American. And then the best little guy from out of Niagara, Calvin Murphy, a scoring whiz. Let's move to the era of the 1970s and some snapshots. It was the era of John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever. It was also the era of the infamous Watergate scandal. And then when we think about the 1970s, we think about the dominance of John Wooden and the great UCLA teams in the early 70s. But then parity set in. We had more great players, more great teams. Let's now start with my 1970s all-Rolls-Royce team. At guard, Bill Ford. Ford set all North Carolina in motion with his great creative ability. Ford could stick the J if you let him. And he could penetrate to the hoop. He was the classic 3-D'er. I mean, this guy can drive, draw, and dish the rock with the best of them. And he was the Player of the Year in 1978. And at the other guard, let's go with the Magic Man, Earvin Magic Johnson. We're talking about a player who changed the game, a multi-dimensional one. And at 6'9", Magic was a great passer. He could hit the jumper if you let him. He could post jump on the boxes, and he could rebound. He could do anything he wanted. He could play center, forward, and guard, all wrapped up in one. This guy, without a doubt, was unreal. It is the Magic himself, the Magic of Earvin Johnson. And then we go to the forward, and there's Larry Bird, another player who changed the game. At 6'9", this guy was a forward who played like a guard. He had point guard skills with his great sense for the game and his tremendous passing ability. And he also had that feathery touch, and he could drill the long-range shot as well. It's been said before, but it's worth repeating. Larry Bird was born to play this game. But my other forward, let's go with David Thompson from out of North Carolina State. A 3-time first-team All-American, 1973 to 1975. If they didn't have the no-dunk rule, this guy would have gone to town, baby, because he can flat-out rise with the best of them. Thompson took North Carolina State to the championship, the NCAA title, in 1974 when he was named Player of the Year. And now we go to the center position, Big Bill Walton. Again, no one was even in his class. During his sophomore year, UCLA went 30-0, and he led the Bruins to 2 NCAA titles. Each of those years, he was named MVP of the tournament. Walton was also a unanimous choice for Player of the Year 2 of his 3 years. The guy was simply the anchor of the mighty Bruins. My coach of the 1970s, here it is again. Let's go, roll the music. John Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood, as his UCLA team won 5 more NCAA titles during the decade.
All right, if they're not calling it, so hang on to it.
Let's talk about some guys that really were great players, my honorable mention guys. Hey, what about Austin Carr? This guy was a scoring whiz at Notre Dame. And then we talk about Sidney Wick, a great rebounder. He was up there on the glass with the best of them out at UCLA. And then what about a rejector? Go down to Jacksonville for Artis Gilmore, the Giant. But when you talk about rejectors, the uno number one guy, the primetime player, Bill Russell. Nobody rejected shots like Russell. Hey, let's take a look at some other guys that were great rejectors, guys that live in Rejection City. Lou Alcindor, later known as Kareem, belongs in this group. Get close to the basket and you eat it, baby. And then there's Patrick Ewing. Another shot blocker deluxe.
And another block.
Alonzo Mourning, entering the paint at your own risk, baby, because he is the judge and the jury. Derek Lewis can block shots with the best of them from out of Maryland University.
Blocked by Lewis. Early in traffic, Lewis got a piece of that one too.
And then Temple had a good one by the name of Dwayne Coswell.
Marshall blocked on the rail. Dwayne Coswell, he erases it.
And maybe the modern major rejecter of all, the mayor of Rejection City, David Robinson, the Admiral, who in 1986 averaged 5.9 blocks per game. What a block by the rejecter himself, the Admiral. Moving along to the 1980s, it was an era of the fatherly figure of Ronald Reagan. It was also the era of Michael Jackson. I'm bad, baby. I mean, it was such an unbelievable era for such great talent. It was so difficult to pick a Rolls-Royce team. But I'm going to start now with my really superstars in terms of honorable mention. I'm going to talk about guys that were great guards in the 1980s. Here's my Rolls-Royce honorable mention guard. Hersey Hawkins, the Bradley superstar. This guy was a scorer supreme. One of only 5 players in history to total more than 3,000 points. Voted by the UPI and the AP as Player of the Year in 1988. Danny Ainge, Brigham Young University. A floor general who can shoot. He can pass the ball, was very much a PT peer.
Seconds to go. Ainge against Paxson. 5 seconds. Inside. Ainge scores with 2 seconds. 1 second on the clock. It is all over.
Johnny Dawkins, Duke University. J.D. helped lead the Blue Devils to the NCAA Finals in 1986. That year he was voted the winner of the Naismith Award. At 6'2", Dawkins could shoot or take the ball to the hole with the best of them. And now my first team all Rolls-Royce guard. Let's go with Chris Mullin, Mr. St. John's University himself. He was the UPI Player of the Year in 1985. One of those guys whose court sense made up for a lack of speed. A guard who had the equivalent playing ability of Larry Bird on the baseline. He was a A-plus shooter.
It's tied and Mullen is fouled.
My first team all Rolls-Royce guard, Chris Mullin. His running mate, let's go to Isaiah Thomas, the prototype point guard. He had great eyes, great vision, a phenomenal passer, and oh, can he win. He led the Indiana Hoosiers to 2 NCAA tournaments. The guy was a terrific shooter as he had a nice soft jumper. Isaiah ran the show, baby, for Bobby Knight. Look at Isaiah, baby. Smooth as silk. He is so beautiful to watch. He was first-team All-American in 1981, and that's the year in the city of brotherly love he led them to the finals, where they defeated North Carolina for all the gold. By all Rolls-Royce guards of the 1980s, Isaiah Thomas and Chris Mullin. Now my honorable mention forwards. Let's go to Danny Ferry, Duke University. He can post up inside. He can shoot the J. And he could dish the rock. Player of the Year, 1989, Danny Ferry. And then there's James Worthy out of North Carolina. All you have to do is just watch him play. This guy was Slam Jam Bam. He's first team All-World, 1982, James Worthy. And then what about the L Train? Lionel Simmons, LaSalle, over 3,000 points scored in his college career. He had great court sense. He says, get out of here, baby. He can block shots as well. And oh, can he rebound and start the break and finish the play. And then there's Wayman Tisdale, the Oklahoma Sooner superstar, one of the few players to make consensus All-American 3 years in a row. He was strong and tough. Now my first team 1980s Rolls-Royce forwards. Danny Manning, Kansas, two-time first-team All-American, 1987 and 1988. He led the Jayhawks to 4 NCAA tournaments, 2 of them Final Fours, and they won it all in 1988 with Danny and the Miracles, Danny Manning, and his Kansas team, where he was named MVP of the tournament. At 6'10" tall, Manning had great agility. Look at this move. He can dribble right, he can spin left, he ducks under the defender, he double clutches, and he puts it in the hole, baby. He was awesome. One of the great ones of all time, Danny Manning. My other forward, we got to go to North Carolina, and we got to go for a small forward by the name of Michael Jordan. Maybe the most acrobatic, creative basketball player ever to play this game. He had quick hands on defense and the ability to slam, bam, jam, baby, with the best of them. Jordan was first-team All-American in 1983 and 1984. He helped lead the Tar Heels to the NCAAs 3 straight years. And in 1982, they won the national championship over the Georgetown Hoyas. What a shot right over Patrick Ewing. Can you imagine defending this? Michael Jordan to James Worthy. Awesome, baby. Michael Jordan and Danny Manning by 2 Rolls-Royce forwards of the 1980s. My honorable mention centers. Let's go to Ralph Sampson of Virginia, a 7'4" player with the skills of a little guy. He can post up, or he can shoot from the outside. And don't you dare challenge this first-team 3-time All-American. Then there's Akeem Olajuwon, the Houston Cougars, the center for Phi Slamma Jamma, and he jamma pretty good, baby. Olajuwon dared folks to come in the paint, and then he said, see you later, baby. And then his teammate, Clyde the Glide Drexler, would take it to the goal. He'd slam, jam, bam, and he'd say, how does this rock taste, baby? And then there was David Robinson of Navy, the big man from the Admiral School. That's right, first-team All-American, 1987. Robinson had great mobility and agility for a 7-footer. It was alley-oop time to Mr. Robinson, and as we saw earlier, he says, get out of here, baby. He was rejection city. You just throw the ball up there, and Robinson would grab it with great hands. Now that's my first-team All-American Rolls-Royce center. Let's go to Mr. Patrick Ewing, Georgetown, the Intimidator, the Mike Tyson of college hoops. He played with a mean streak in him. You give him room, and it's 2. Give him space, and it's 2. Ewing was a 3-time first-team All-American at Georgetown. He led the Hoyas to the crown in 1984 and to the final game in 1985. Patrick Ewing, Mr. Intensity, powerful, and an athletic center of the 1980s. Ewing, Jordan, Manning, Thomas, and Mullen, the 1980s Rolls-Royce team. And the coach of this team has to be the general himself. That's right, Robert Montgomery Knight. Yeah, he's volatile, he can be intimidating, and he can be intense, but oh, can he flat out coach. A big-time winner who won an NCAA title in 1981 and 1987. Robert Montgomery Knight, the Rolls-Royce coach of the 1980s. Now we've been through 40 years of college basketball. I mean, we have gone through Tom Gola, from the start of Mr. Gola, all the way through Mr. Jordan, the Skywalker himself. I mean, it's so difficult to compare players of different eras, but that's what I'm paid to do. So now I'm going to lay on you my all-time Rolls-Royce team, my solid gold performers. Here we go. Roll the music. Get the drums playing, baby. And here they go. My starting guards. Let's go to Oscar Robertson, Mr. Cincinnati, Mr. Versatility. And then let's go down to West Virginia. Let's get the smooth stroke of Jerry West. In the middle, I'm going with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was the consummate center. And then at the forwards, I'm going with the jumping jack, the high riser himself, David Thompson of North Carolina State. And then I'm going at the other forward with the guy that can pass the rock and shoot it, Larry Bird of Indiana State. The coach, none other than the greatest of all time, John Wooden. Now, I know I'm going to hear some hisses, and I'm going to hear some boos, but it's my show, baby, and that's what I'm paid for. Hey, I'm going to tell you about some other guys that have a chance to be Rolls Royces. Here's two players that you got to get familiar with. Kenny Anderson, Georgia Tech. This point guard can handle the ball beautifully. I mean, he's an unbelievable penetrator, and he can really pass the rock and score. He can really shoot it and handle it with the best of them. Anderson has an explosive move to the goal, an unbelievable super player. And then we talk about the next great big man, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq takes it to the rack with the best of them. He's another potential Rolls Roycer. The LSU center sometimes looks like he's a man playing with boys. You watch out, baby. This guy is special. Shaquille O'Neal. Hey, this has really been a blast. I can't believe it. You talk about utopia. Here I am being chauffeured around in a Rolls Royce, talking about Rolls Royce players. I mean, I love this. I mean, a guy that loves college basketball, it can't get any better. I think now it's time for me to say, hey, James, will you chauffeur me in my Rolls Royce so I can join my family and friends and go home? Are you ready to drive me home, James?
I can't take you.
You can't take me? Why, James, baby?
I don't have to give you a reason. You know why?
Why?
Because it's my car, baby. That's why. See you later.
I can't believe it. This has been a lot of fun, everybody. Get a timeout. Get a timeout.